out at this point because I already hit go.
Does not surprise me at all.
Welcome to Practical Shooting After Dark. My name's Ben. We're here to talk about shooting. On deck tonight, Mr. Kim.
Hello.
Mr. Park.
Hello.
Oh, look at that. Or two little peas in a pod, you guys.
Two Korean brothers. I was just following Kim's lead.
Yes, two guys. You guys are here to say nice stuff, and then I'll come in with the off-color remarks occasionally. All right. Well, you guys know the deal. Everybody comes here with a topic or a thing to talk about, and tonight is no different. So let's get started. Who'd like to go first?
I want to hear what Kim has to say.
Yeah, it's a little bit boring.
All right, fuck that then. I got something. I got a real cracker to start with. No, I don't have a cracker, but I got a show and tell. I'm holding in my hands a book with art on it that is like a guy's brain. It's called The Game Within the Game, Mastering the Steel Challenge Mental Game. So, yeah, well, I think I just have an early copy of Ken Verderami's new book because he's a friend of mine. Hey, you guys know who that is, right?
Sorry, I do not.
I don't.
It's okay if you don't. Still Shoot Banners is Ken.
Oh, okay. I'm familiar.
Yeah, so that's him, and he's got a Steel Challenge book out, and then this is just a shooting mental game book. And like I said, he's a friend of mine. He sent me a copy of this, had me go through it, and I'll tell you what it is. So it is a mental game book for practical shooting. It is not very long. It is not very thick. I wouldn't say it's condensed. It covers the topic, I would say, to my satisfaction, but it's like 70 pages long in 8.5 by 11 format. So it's not a huge book. It's really small. It covers a thing, but I would say there's no like woo-woo sort of mystic nonsense in it. It's practical and actionable, kind of the way that Joel and I would write it if we were doing match mentality. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I already have my Amazon app open. Can I buy it yet or no?
I think you can. It is for sale, and yeah.
What's it called
yes,
again?
I'm sorry. What's that?
What's it called?
The Game Within the Game, Mastering the Steel Challenge Mental Game.
Okay, sorry, continue.
Yes, so, well, there isn't a ton to say about it aside from what it basically is and what's in it. And I would say what I liked about it is that it comes at it from the angle that speaks to me personally, as if you've read our stuff, like I need stuff that's concrete, and this book deals with concrete stuff, but focusing on the process. I mean, that's repeated in here, having a process-driven mental game, rehearsing the steps, overcoming limitations, all of that stuff. It has kind of what you need for mental game. And if that's something you're interested in, this book would be interesting to pick up. I have no idea the price point.
Thank you. Your order has been placed. I've already got one on the way.
Okay.
I don't really pay attention to how much. I don't really know. I just hit.
I know,
buy
because you're so.
Sorry. Well, it was $20, $19.95.
All right. Well, there it is. So, The Game Within the Game. That is something that if that's something that's interesting to you, there it is. It would be something to take a look at. I don't feel it was an unproductive use of my time to read it. Let me put it that way.
I like reading everyone's stuff anyway. I'm just
that's my mentality. I read everything.
Yeah, like you guys. I like shooting. I'm interested in talking about shooting, so I'm curious what people have to say.
Man, here I am. I have to like send out spies to people's classes for me to find out what's going on and read everybody's stuff. It's hard work.
Ben, would you say the mental stuff from Steel Challenge, would you say they're very transferable to USPSA?
Well, I should say that this book's not written. It references Steel Challenge a lot, but it's not written in a way that would preclude anything else. Like you would hardly know that it's for Steel Challenge if you were reading it as a USPSA person. There's some stuff about like target strategy on the stages, just like kind of mentioning it in brief, but there's not technical Steel Challenge stuff in it really. It's not really about that. It's just it's like your mental process, like how you perceive yourself, what stuff you allow in your brain as far as inputs from the outside world, that kind of stuff. Like I said, it's the sort of concrete, actionable writing style that I like. It's the stuff that I use and the stuff that speaks to me. So there it is.
Sold.
Yeah.
So I hit a buy now button on my phone, and then someone will drive it to me in a truck and drop it off my front door. So that sounds okay.
Do what makes you happy, Joel.
Yeah.
All right, Kim, what's that boring shit you wanted to talk about?
Yes. So I have multiple CO guns now. I have 5 that are running.
Is this about your video you put up?
Yes, but not directly information coming from the video, though. It's not super related. So I wanted to talk about the mounting system and a little bit of maintenance tip that I gathered over the years.
Hold on a second. Mm-hmm. So you're telling me you made an in-depth, what was it, 15-minute long Carry Optics gun review, where you're showing all of the relevant options in recoil, describing the pros and cons of each gun, and you made a condensed review video that you've posted on Training Group today as we record this.
Yes, that was.
And you don't want to talk about this. You want to talk about mounting dots on the guns.
Yes, it's a little bit different.
Cool. Sign me up.
Yes, the video was basically.
Obviously, you should go watch the video if you're a Training Group member because it's a very interesting video.
Yes,
Let's talk about the most boring part of it, though. Let's do that.
Yes. So, CO gun right now, there's a lot of people going with direct mount. Basically, they mill out the slide to fit the optic on a production gun, or people use optic ready gun, typically with a mount on it. So separate sheet of metal in between the optic. And then the last one is the dovetail mount. So you shoot production gun, you take the rear side out, you put a mount on your rear side socket. So I have all the system over here. And first, before I would go into my favorite, I asked a lot of people, like people shooting with different systems. And the optic, especially Trijicon SRO, it's hardly seeing anybody breaking it, but the stuff that broke is either out of the box or people who use direct mount system, and other optics too. Typically,
and by out of the box, I mean it's a defect when they produced it. So we haven't seen a lot of broken ones, but we are seeing a few defective ones.
Correct.
Okay.
And then direct mount, to be clear, you're talking about bolting an optic directly to the slide with nothing.
Milling the slide and bolting that hole in there, I think.
Yes. So if you mill the slide, it's dedicated to that one certain optic footprint. So people who doing that tend to break earlier, or like SRO, I don't have anything break, but then direct mount, somebody broke with a direct mount. So I don't personally recommend. It's either with a mount on the top, so you have a sheet metal in between the optic and the gun slide. So supposedly that's gonna absorb some recoil force, whatever reason. That's supposed to last a little longer. So that's how I've been running it. One thing about direct mount is I like it compared to the dovetail mount. The offset from the bore axis is just too big. So direct mount actually gives a better least offset on a close distance. When you shoot a headshot with the optic, you will shoot really low. And if you use dovetail mount,
because of the height over bore, correct?
Yes, it's gonna be a lot lower. The offset is just too great with the dovetail mount. So if you don't want to risk spending a lot of money or breaking the optic by going with a direct mount with your production gun because you don't want to buy optic ready gun, whatever reason, then my recommendation is go with a dovetail mount because it's just cheapest option and it doesn't supposed to break the optic very quickly either. And now you can just swap out rear sight and stuff like that. And one thing I learned over the time of using this particular optic that I broke now 9 times, I don't use that anymore as a.
That's the one you posted on Instagram today, I believe.
I just did, yes. That optic. So if you have any trouble with the optic, especially with the carry optics gun, reciprocating with the optic on top will hammer, damage your optic really fast. So one thing that I did to increase the lifetime is actually this thing. It's called dielectric grease. If you put this, it's very cheap. It's from Amazon. And if you just rub it around your battery, it's supposed to have a better contact. And one of the biggest problem with a carry optics gun is when it reciprocates, the battery contact plate or whatever battery contacting system can go out of place or break in place. and that grease will definitely help last a little bit longer, but it's not a solution for fix. But this really actually helped me with the practice gun when I ran it. It was like 7,000, the optic will break. But if I use this, sometimes it lasts a little bit longer, or actually sometimes instead of the optic just going like turn off in recoil, this can actually make it flicker in recoil. So it's less worse situation there.
So at least you could use the gun.
Yes, at least you will hope if you shake it around, it may come back, highly likely, because of the grease making it better contact. And then the last one is I have this lens cleaner. It's like a fog anti and also anti-static, stuff like that. So it really helps in the rainy situation. It's kind of like the one you put it on your window shield in your car.
Like
so
the
when
Rain-X stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like that. So I put that on the optic window, and that really helps to like anti-fog, rain situation. And definitely anybody who has optic, they gotta have either shower cap or the optic cover for the rain situation. So those things are what I learned from using the optic that always broke, like 9 times. Come on. I talked to engineer there, and they were denying the situation. So I don't think the company is willing to fix or anything like that. So, but
was that an engineer or was it a marketing person?
Who was at the SHOT Show?
Marketing
that might
person.
Have been. That might have actually. Well, it might have been an engineer. That's the sad part.
But there's now way more reliable optics out there, so that's good.
Yeah.
But also realize if you're shooting like 5,000 or 7,000 rounds before they break, like that's a lifetime of ammo, probably for their average consumer. So
that's true.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Kim. And just to make the point, training group members should go watch or should have already watched the Carry Optics gun review that you made, because I was like, God damn, that's a meaty piece of content there, sir.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my studio space recording me just like standing there dry firing, and you're doing like actual work. Well done.
Well, you got smart stuff to say, yes.
Yes. All right, Joe, what do you got?
So I will talk about Ben, you can help me out here a little bit. Our YouTube channel we started. You are not very helpful. You're right. I agree with your point. It's called Practical Shooting Explained. And so I think maybe the misconception that some people have, like watching this, would be who it's for. And so really the goal is Ben and I explaining practical shooting in a way that if one of your friends is thinking about getting into practical shooting, they don't shoot now, or somebody interested, it's a person that's not serious about shooting USPSA. Is that a fair way of saying it, Ben?
No, not really.
All right. How do you want to say it better?
I like the Practical Shooting Explained is we're trying to take information out of practical shooting. Like, notice we're not even saying USPSA. We're saying practical shooting, like this whole like style or discipline, not just USPSA itself, but export information out of that to other people that shoot. But I don't care if they ever shoot a USPSA match. We're not trying to get them to do that. I don't give a fuck if they do that. Mm-hmm. Like those aren't our people. Like most gun owners will never shoot a USPSA match. They just won't. Which is, I mean, say what you want about that, but like we're not trying to get them to do that. We're trying to say like, hey, let's have Mr. Kim on this channel to explain to us about these optics so that when you go buy one, you can get a better one, because you want to talk to the guys that actually shoot the shit out of the guns. Or whatever else. So we recorded a Stock 2 review, which will go up. It'll probably already be live on that channel. And that's that's not they ship me a gun, I shoot 500 rounds through it, and then I give it a blowjob for a magazine. That's not like a review. Like, instead, it's like we use the product, use them hard, break them, shoot them in matches over a long period of time, and then give a actual actionable review. Like, hey, this is what to expect from this product, and this is who this is for, and this is who this is not for. It's that kind of thing. So it's taking the lessons that we've learned and shipping that out. So yeah. I think that's a good angle. It's a good way to go.
Oh, I like it. Yeah. So it's we appreciate the engagement, but we're not going to have a video explaining how to decide if it's a higher or low hit factor stage. That's kind of just, that's not the direction the channel's going.
It's not going that way.
No, but it is maybe like, hey, why? Or I have a video in the works. It'll be like, what is a timer? Like, why do you you see this guy running around behind you shooting, holding
What's the
this
fat
box?
guy doing with the blue box? What's that about?
What is it? What does it do? Why is it interesting? And so it's made to be informative more than a supplement for training group, I suppose, is a way of saying it. It's informative, hopefully.
Yeah, but it's not. If you're listening to this show, that channel's not for you. Like, I'll be honest.
No, we appreciate you subscribing to it. If you want to watch it, that's cool.
It's maybe for some of your friends, but it's probably not for you.
No, So I didn't want you to think we're just ignoring your comments, but like a high or a low hit factor stage, or I don't know, some other
So
nonsense.
now you're explaining we're not just ignoring your comments, we're reading it and then discarding.
We're reading it and then discarding it. Yes.
Yes. Okay. We're not just ignoring.
No, we're reading it and then ignoring it. Isn't that better?
Makes me feel a lot better.
Okay, that's it. The end.
That's it. So Practical Shooting Explained. We're taking YouTube by storm. Not really. It's got like 400 subscribers, Joel.
Well, that's great.
Whatever. I don't think. But are you creatively fulfilled? That's what I need to know.
It's enjoyable. I like it. It's fun.
Well, that's
I stumbled across Ben's material because I'm just Googling hey, what are drills? How do I grip a pistol? What is practical shooting? Whatever. And you just stumble across this stuff. So hopefully it's entertainment and helpful for some people. And maybe they want to try practical shooting and maybe they don't. That's okay either way.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, let's do a question, guys. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Sounds incredible.
All right, I'm going to distill this down because it's a long question. I'm going to distill it down. What is the best mental approach if you're unfortunate enough to be down considerably in the first few stages of a long match? And what's the best way to make sure that you can start off cold just as strong as you would finish? Thanks. It's kind of a generic, let's take the first part first. So, actually, we could ignore the second part because that's just about cold stage performance. But what do you do if you're behind? If you feel behind the first couple stages of a long match? Mr. Kim.
Yes. You're
a strategy expert. You have a whole algorithm about this.
Of course.
But what's the core? What do you do when you're down?
Yeah, the short story is as soon as I sign my score for the current stage I shot, of course I load my mags immediately and I just look at the next stage right away.
So I'm hearing you do nothing.
Yes, I drive my focus for the next stage. I kind of forget about the previous stage performance. Of course, the score is not ignoring part, but the performance, I fucked my reload, or I'm upset. Those kind of thoughts will come up, no matter who you are. Those thoughts will come up, but the way you can kind of forget that is to occupy your mind for the next step. So I immediately visualize the next stage, or I actually go to that stage. If there's a swinger, I look at it and come back and start pasting and thinking about the next stage, visualizing things.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree with that completely.
I'll put it to you like this. So if you go to nationals and you're on the super squad, which means you can actually know the scores. So I suppose this has kind of changed now, but back when they had super squads at nationals that they made everybody be on, if they had a chance to win the match, you would actually know where you were standing relative to the people you're shooting against. This is not the situation in most long matches now, is it? I would say, that just doesn't happen either. Even if you're shooting an area match over 2 days, it's unlikely that you're going to have everybody on your squad shooting the same stages at the same times as you, so you would even know your score relative to theirs. So usually if you have a rough first couple stages, this being behind thing, it's a feeling of being behind, right? You're really combating your own feelings. And really, like you said, Mr. Kim, there's not really a whole lot you can do about that, is there?
That's true.
You can make it worse, but you're not going to make it better by dwelling on what just happened. And the other thing I should say is after the first stage of nationals, you can only have one guy in the lead of the match. And it's probably not going to be the guy who wins the match. like just statistically, the guy leading the match after one stage, it's not the guy who's going to win. I've seen nationals where it's like after like 2.5 days, the guy that will ultimately win the match still is not in the lead and has at no point been in the lead. They're just kind of hanging back. So you shouldn't be too judgmental about scores early on, and you should not get fixated on just a couple stages. Most people do not do well relatively on their first couple stages, especially when they really care about the match. So there's no cause for alarm, I don't think. I mean, a lot of this is like expectation dependent. Like when I'm starting a long match, my first few stages, I'm like, I'm just going to shoot the stages like okay. I'm not in there like chomping at the bit that I didn't win those stages. I wasn't planning on it. I wasn't even trying. I was just shooting the stages to not have a disaster, you know. Mm-hmm. So a lot of this goes to what your mentality is as a competitor. But I would say for me, I'm very patient, and I've trained myself to be very patient. So I'm not expecting to make anything happen in the first couple stages. So. Yeah. It is a question of your expectations and what you're trying to accomplish. If you go to a big match to dominate every stage at every level of the competition and to destroy everybody by a lot, that'll work pretty well until you get to guys that you aren't dominant over, and then you have to actually like compete, you know, and you have to like, you know,
unless there's a big disparity of skill, exactly.
Yeah, if there's a big disparity of skill, it's not really much of a competition, is it?
Correct.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter then.
I think the getting out of the beating themselves up kind of depends on the characteristics and kind of like the lifestyle too, and in practice how they practice. So yes. I used to beat myself up, criticize a lot, but then at one point I was just thinking, stop criticizing, just analyze it, and then act accordingly. That happened a lot in practice, and that started changing at matches too. Just keep thinking, no criticism, but just analyzing it. It really helped me.
Yeah. I'd say the guy I know that has the best like long view of big matches is Gaston. Like he looks at the whole match only through the lens of like as a long match. He doesn't get down the rabbit hole of looking at it stage by stage. He's looking at the bigger picture always. Which I learned a lot from him when I started hanging around with him about how to view a big match like that. So
yeah, like you guys said, not compounding your problems, because if you have one bad stage,
yeah, like you're only going to make it worse.
Yeah, like I'm just going to go hard and try to make up that ground, and you only end up losing more, which is just a no-win situation. And then the other thing I've experienced is maybe you start on a stage that is not very easy, and you're really angry because I'm like, man, I had a miss or I had a penalty, whatever. I'm like, oh, that really sucks. That's not the way I want to start the match. But it was starting on a very, very difficult stage that maybe the competitors haven't got to yet. So like, hey, if the stage is difficult, everyone's gonna have to shoot that difficult stage. Maybe you just did it first. That's something else to be thinking about.
Yeah, and also again having a different perspective where if you look at anybody's match summary, even go click on the guy, like what nationals was there just? Lim 10 nationals. I haven't even looked at the results in detail. Like, so this is not to shit on anybody, but so, I mean, if I look at the match winner's score.
I don't even know Lim 10 was over. Oh, I guess I think I did.
Yeah, so I'll click on single stack. So old Rob Latham won the match. I'll click on his and look at this. As I go through here, there's a couple stages I see that I'm sure he wants back. Like for sure. But you know what? That's true of pretty much any match summary you look at a big match at that level. You're going to click on the guy winning the match, and he'll be like, oh, I bet he wants those couple stages back. And that always is the situation. Mm-hmm. Always. So, I mean, again, having some perspective, if you're like, okay, I had one of those stages on like my fourth stage of the match. Okay. Like most other, if like you kind of tend to assume that everyone you're shooting against is having a perfect match, which is almost never the case. And if they have a perfect match, you're fucked anyway. So that's really nothing you can worry about.
Totally.
Yeah. But I guess all that I'm talking about, the advice I would give is always to like have perspective, manage expectations, and have perspective. If you even approach it with the mentality that you're behind after just a couple stages and that you need to do something to catch up, well, you're probably going to create some mistakes for yourself.
Yeah, I think I had my view was very skewed. I would think about my B class days. There was a day where there was a stage that was not suited to my strength, and I remember almost zeroing it. It was not good, and then I ended up still winning my class, and it was just like, hey, I guess everybody else in B class had a tough time also. It's like what you're saying. Like I thought I was gonna shoot a perfect match in B class, and it's like, nope, everybody else in B class had difficulties also. So
Yeah.
like regardless of the skill level, it's not just at the top, it's the like the middle of the pack also. Like no one's having a perfect match. So just relax, don't do anything else stupid, and just like don't make it worse.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, with that, guys, it's another Bang Up podcast. So listeners, if you have a question you'd like the answer to, go to bensegger.com. Thank you, Mr. Park, Mr. Kim, for joining me tonight. I did enjoy it.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Well,
Yes, definitely.
you're welcome. I guess Mr. Kim is welcome too.
Thank you.